It's time to talk about the AFL umpires. Yes, they have been put into question over the standard of their own officiating in AFL matches in 2025, but have also come into the news for reasons not associated with their own performances on field. This has led to a crackdown from the AFL, possibly leading to AFL player suspensions, and one of the most prominent AFL coaches calling out the umpires for their positioning. It's a complicated time for the important group of the competition and the people who allow the players to do what they do. Hopefully in the not too distant future, the umpires might finally have a home base and become full-on professionals just like the rest of the industry. But for now, let's focus on some recent AFL announcements. The big one was to do with player contact. It's tough. The number of player contact with umpires incidents dramatically increased in 2024, and at the time of recording this is already over 60 in 2025, breaking that already high number of last season. A majority of them have occurred at the centre bounce. This led the AFL announcing prior to round 17 that all players who have more than 4 incidents of this nature over the past 2 seasons need to go directly to the tribunal. There is also no reset, so a 5th, 6th or 7th contact all go straight to the tribunal. This obviously means a suspension is possible, but looking deeper and listening to AFL CEO Andrew Dillon on SEN, a suspension for incidental umpire contact does seem highly unlikely. The reality is, it'll be 9 out of 10 times an increased financial sanction. In the headlines and discussion of the new rule, the possibility of a suspension was a touch exaggerated, and it's hard to see a world where a player on 4 contacts already, such as Matt Rowell, actually gets a 1-game ban. But this didn't stop his coach and Damien Hardwick firing back at the AFL, and most of the frustration out of the community probably came with the AFL not resetting the contacts that happened previously. That does seem unfair to spring a new rule in and have multiple players on 3 or 4 warnings already. The AFL is firm on this new stance, so those centre bounce midfielders will need to be careful. One solution could be to get rid of the bounce of the ball. Now traditionalists might not like to hear that, but having a guarantee of a straight ball up does give more predictability to all at the centre bounce, and there would be less dramatic angle changes before the umpire can move back out of the way. But for now, it's time for players to adapt and get out of the way whether they like it or not. For Nate Caddy in round 17, he couldn't get out of the way. An umpire ran right into his running straight in a nasty incident for the young key forward. He was winded and down, and according to his coach Brad Scott, he took 15 minutes to regain his composure and get back out on the field. Scott was not happy in his post-game press conference about the incident. I've lost count of the amount of times I've contacted the AFL about moving the umpires out of the corridor. They sprint into the corridor and they stay there, and that's clearly where we want to get the ball. Even when I was at the AFL, I tried to move them out of the corridor and they still wouldn't move. We've been at them and at them and at them to move out of the corridor, and the last response I had from Steve McBurney was just pretend they're invisible. Scott has a point, and it's more valid with 4 umpires on the field. The umps do like to own the corridor at stages and try to get 2 angles on the field of play, so for holding the balls or high free kicks, there is no blind side blocking the view as if there was just a single umpire there. On paper it makes sense, but I'm not sure it's quite translated on the field. Now the caddy incident is rare and doesn't happen often, but if these do increase, then perhaps the AFL will go to the umpires and request they have to have more width and not sprint into the corridor, but time will tell. No doubt having 4 umpires doesn't help the possibility of this. The increase from 3 to 4 happened in 2023, but have the results been better? I'm not so sure. Sometimes less is more, and it might be the case with this. The AFL has stood firm on 4 umpires being the way into the future, despite some high-profile members of the AFL and media questioning the system. Sure, it can give more viewpoints, but we've also seen an increase in out-of-area umpire free kicks and umpires in their zones right in front of the play not blowing their whistles to obvious looking free kicks. It can look messy, especially when an umpire 60 metres away is calling a free kick out of nowhere. However, things might be changing. In late June, the AFL announced the purchase of Waverley Park from Hawthorn, who will soon move into their new facility in Dingley. The reason for the purchase was broad, but did include umpiring. AFL CEO Andrew Dillon said, "The purchase off the ground and facilities is a rare and timely solution that will help with our talent pathways programs, community footy, and umpire development and programs, all of which will now be worked through with the relevant stakeholders. It might mean the AFL umpires have their own home and training ground. It's been a big complaint from them that they haven't had access to Marvel Stadium and have had to use places like Icon Park for their training. Surely Waverley can be the steady base and make umpires near fully professional. Now, a lot of them do have jobs outside the AFL, despite earning decent money for their on-field roles, but it might be time to make a handful of them, perhaps the most senior ones, full-time and focused on their part in the game. It means they can train more per week, go over vision and nuances, and even go to the clubs weekly and explain things in person and to the players. Having Waverley should give the opportunity for this to happen, and I think it would benefit everyone. And the final officiating concern is with the ball tracking. The league has been quiet on this. It was announced to be a part of the 2025 men's season, although the AFL ruled it out in late 2024, citing a want for improvement. The technology would allow the ARC to instantly know if a ball was touched and if it crossed or didn't cross the goal line due to the sensors in the ball. It's the last piece of tech needed to bulletproof the score system, which is still relying on the original umpire's call in certain situations. But the delay has been a touch concerning. The tech seemed to be okay when it was trialled in the AFLW, but it did have a few blunders in getting the accuracy from 95% correct to 100% is probably what the delay is about. It has to be perfect when it comes to the competition, or else we all know the type of criticism that will come. But the lead into the final series will have that umpire contact in the back of coaches and players' minds. The AFL loves to spring surprise rulings in every so often, and despite the protest by some, at the end of the day, everyone has to jump on board because you never know what can happen and it could lead to a suspension at the worst possible time.